Good morning and welcome to the Power of Hydrogen Cross-Border Cooperation live stream event here from the industrial studios at IPKW. An in-depth session of last year's Future of Us event since hydrogen is on the rise. We see many activities trying to make a contribution to our climate goals. That's why we're going to look into the chances and ambitions for cross-border cooperation between East Netherlands and West Germany, with several guests ranging from politicians to policymakers and up to entrepreneurs. My name is Jochem Garthoff, and I'll be hosting you through this live stream event together with Wilco van Kampen, CEO of Exingtech Global. Wilco, welcome. And nice to have someone on board with in-depth knowledge on hydrogen technology, but also with practical experience on how to start up a business on hydrogen. Could you briefly tell us about Exingtech Global?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jochem. Well, Exingtech is, I would call, one of those companies on a mission to make a better world, striving to do well by creating impact. Exingtech is a company dedicated to developing, producing and marketing alkaline electrolyzers, scalable electrolyzers for industrial purposes in the range between 115 kilowatts and 20 plus megawatts. And and in this way, of course, we are trying to shape the world towards a hydrogen economy.
Okay, and if you look at the main theme of this event, cooperation, it's a very small word, but it has many faces, different angles. What does cooperation mean to you?
Well, it's an interesting question. The purpose of cooperation is, to my opinion, acting together for a common goal and for mutual benefit. And from a business perspective, it's meant actually to achieve some kind of predefined results. And well, needless to say, but important to realize that working together accelerates your own business, but also the business of your counterparts. And as some people say, it's a great learning experience, and I think I have to agree with them.
Okay. Final question before we kick off. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I would like to learn how those policymakers and companies work together to tackle all those challenges in the building a hydrogen economy.
Okay. Well, having said that, were you viewing us at home or at the office, you can join us via the chat on the website Future of Us. We try to answer as many questions as we can live in the event. Questions that remain unanswered, you can look them up later on. Before we start with our first four guests, we're going to have a sneak preview on a cooperation intention between the government of Münster and the Eastern Netherlands. Let's have a look.
Die Zusammenarbeit zwischen dem Bezirk und den Provinzen Overijssel und Gelderland ist enger als je zuvor. Und wir als gute Nachbarn bilden eine einzigartige europäische Gesamtregion, die von Wirtschaftskraft und kultureller Vielfalt gekennzeichnet wird. Und ja, wir haben das auch wissenschaftlich untersucht, die Verbindung nicht allein in Osten von Niederland, aber auch zwischen unsere Region und Deutschland. Und wir haben ein Rapport, Kraft von Ost, die Kraft vom Osten. Und ich möchte sehr gerne dich die deutsche Fassung anbieten. Das wird digital, mache ich das, aber es ist für dich. Vielen Dank.
Sie duzen einander?
Ja, genau. Ja, wir haben verabredet, dass wir duzen.
Ach so. Frau Feller, wie wichtig ist für Sie diese grenzüberschreitende Zusammenarbeit?
Wir haben gerade ein bisschen Tonschwierigkeiten, aber ich muss mal die Frage nach. Ich hab aufgehört zu fragen, wie wichtig mir die deutsch-chinesische Zusammenarbeit ist. Erstmal vielen Dank, dass Sie mich heute dazu geladen haben. Einen guten Tag in die Runde. Das freut mich sehr, weil die deutsch-chinesische Zusammenarbeit ist mir persönlich, aber auch uns als Behörde, als Bezirksführung sehr, sehr wichtig. Wir arbeiten sehr, sehr eng mit den Provinzverwaltungen zusammen, mit der Provinz Overijssel, mit der Provinz Gelderland. Das sind uns ganz wichtige Partner. Und ich bin auch zutiefst überzeugt, dass unsere Grenzregion, unsere beiden Provinzen Gelderland, Overijssel und das Münsterland noch viel mehr wirtschaftliche Vorteile, aber auch kulturelle Vorteile gemeinsam aus einer Zusammenarbeit heben können.
Well, welcome back. And I guess that gives a nice context to our first discussion with our first 4 guests. Allow me to introduce them to you. Mr. Ralf Weidmann, Head of the Department for Regional Development and Municipal Supervision and Economy for the Governmental District of Münster. Welcome to you. Mr. Lars Baumgürtel, CEO of Zinc, Vice President of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce at Noord-Rijn-Westfalen. Welcome to you too. Mr. Tijdens de Bree, Deputy for Energy, Environmental and Labour Market Portfolio of the Province of Overijssel. Welcome to you. And last but not least, Mr. Hans Brouwers, Representative for High Tech and Industry for Germany, Oost NL, Go for Export. Mr. de Bree, if I may start with you. Could you tell us about the current development and perhaps also the ambitions with respect to hydrogen for the East Netherlands?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Well, one of the most important topics, which is on top of the list, is the energy, is the sustainable energy. And in the Netherlands, we are currently busy with making 30 regional plans for sustainable energy, so solar power or wind-powered energy sources. And in East Netherlands, there are several. In Overijssel, we have 2 of those regions, and Gelderland and Overijssel have a high ambition when it comes to solar-powered and wind-powered energy sources. So that's what's on top of mind of most of the policymakers currently in the Netherlands and in East Netherlands.
Mr. de Bree, could you tell us what are the benefits of cross-border cooperation from your point of view?
Well, if you look at the current developments and what I mentioned, the high ambitions we have, and you look at the characteristics of sustainable energy, then you find out that there are several, you may say, problems or chances that we can focus on right now. For instance, the demand and supply of solar power energy does not meet the requirements of industry. During daytime, solar power is, of course, most of the time available, but it's for an industry which is 24/7. Well, it's a challenge. So how can we act on those kind of chances or opportunities? And then it comes from our perspective, from the Eastern perspective, it comes to building smart energy hubs, combining demand and supply, on reducing the pressure on electricity grids. It's about what's mentioned in the introduction about electrolyzing, about storage, hydrogen storage. So that's what these kind of projects, these kind of developments, I think they're most suitable or are very attractive for a international a portfolio of projects that cannot only be carried out on a local, regional level. That is a joint effort we need to take.
Okay, thank you so much. These are the benefits, and you certainly should have some let's say, some strong arguments why we should accumulate cross-border cooperations between those 2 regions. Would you be able, let's say, to contemplate on a few of them?
Well, I think when it comes to a successful program or a program that can meet the requirements on the long term, we need to focus on project level. So we need to build an agenda together. And if I'm looking at the sustainable energy agenda right now in the EU perspective, and well, for instance, if we want to make a zero emission corridor, for instance, for heavy duty transports, or we want to make the industrial plants that depend on high heat or high temperatures, then we have to invest together. So I'm very glad that these kind of meetings stress or underline the importance of the cross-border collaboration on these topics. And well, if I'm currently, I have so many examples, but I've mentioned the industry, the transport, the zero emission, the corridor we've mentioned before. I think these are projects or are the ingredients of a long-term agenda, but that cannot be built only by the regions. We need support from the EU. We need a strong lobby, a strong focus, and the focus, I think, that's within the smart energy hub approach is very attractive for industry, for the for transport, for the regions as a whole, as an integrated approach. So that's. Well, I'm not sure if it's exactly what you're looking for, but that are the issues of the project that comes to my mind. Discussing these kind of topics.
Yeah, well, that gives a more concrete context. Thank you. I was curious, Mr. Baumgartel, from your role, especially as Vice President of Chamber of Commerce, could you reflect on the ambitions on the side of for example, on hydrogen for North Rhine-Westphalia?
Well, it seems that in the past years, hydrogen has really taken off in Germany as a subject to discuss about. Mm-hmm. So it is really now a hip scheme for the political arena, also in economy. If I look to the economy, most companies that are currently talking about hydrogen are on the supply side. It's about electrolyzers, it's about infrastructural products supporting future pipelines and other systems to store hydrogen. But we are not there yet that we discuss a lot about the demand side, about real applications, how to use hydrogen, let's say in day-to-day business. And I think that's still something to be undertaken. And in the political arena, we have basically two sides. There's a very dogmatic side in Germany that sees hydrogen as German energy, green energy, but German. So it needs to be produced in Germany. And then there is a pragmatic side who sees a global sourcing of hydrogen, but still both sides are restricting, and I don't know for what reasons, the volumes. They think that for Germany it's part of the national hydrogen strategy that 100 terawatt hours of hydrogen would be sufficient. Now in North Rhine-Westphalia we have issued also a roadmap from the political side, and all the 100 terawatt hours already gone into North Rhine-Westphalia. But to be honest, if demand side kicks off with other sectors than just steel and concrete, certainly very important areas, and also the chemistry industry, which is already currently using a lot of hydrogen, there's also other sectors which will make a transfer, from my perspective, from natural gas to hydrogen, which is a natural switch. And these sectors will drive the demand up. Alone in Germany, we have process heat demand in natural gas of over 200 terawatt hours. Now that's twice what is depicted in the national hydrogen strategy for Germany. So I think what we need to do now is look at the demand side and see that we have a global procurement of hydrogen in sufficient amounts to satisfy all of the sectors, all the demand for hydrogen at the most efficient pricing schemes. Currently, we are talking about 100 terawatt hours of hydrogen at around 10 cents per kilowatt hours. Mm-hmm. There's new studies coming out from McKinsey and others telling us that the price will go down. And with every study, it goes down for globally sourced hydrogen. Yeah. So I think in a few years, we will talk about a realistic scenario, which will be 500 terawatt hours of hydrogen for Germany at 5 cents per kilowatt hours. And then basically any discussions about whether you should use natural gas or hydrogen will become even an economic discussion. There's an impact maybe of the CO2 carbon setting, the price for CO2. But in the end, it will be almost a price equivalent between hydrogen and natural gas. Maybe one day we will even see that we use hydrogen to generate power in Germany, who knows? And I'm really looking forward to that scenario. I'm not the one dubbing hydrogen as champagne like some politicians in Germany do. It's not champagne. It's a commodity, and it's a very good energy carrier. bit more difficult to handle maybe than carbon containing energies. But it's our only option, to be honest, to really get carbon-free energy. And we are energy consuming in Germany as well as in Holland.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baumgürtel. Very interesting to hear. I have a question. Coming back to, let's say, to this cross-border cooperation, what are your thoughts about cross-border cooperation? And would you describe it as necessary or even essential?
Yeah, if we look to the perspective, we have to build the infrastructure for hydrogen. Now, that is clearly a cooperation project. Fortunately, I don't see the borders here. If I look from an economic perspective, the markets in Germany and the markets in Holland, they are basically already there's so much interaction, there's so much dependency. We will have to work together to make this happen. And I think that the energy transition is one of the biggest challenges that we have seen in energy-intensive industries for the past decades. So we need to cooperate, because alone we are not going to make it happen. And I mean, we are not a multinational per se, but we have our business in Germany, but also in Benelux and in France. And we as an energy-intensive industry sector, we will have to make the switch to hydrogen, and we can't do it on our own. We need partners to cooperate locally in the regions, and even beyond that. We need also policies that really make it possible for us to take the switch to hydrogen.
Yes, and
thank you.
Also an interesting thought that hydrogen will be kind of a driver to get a global approach. Otherwise, we won't get there economically as well. Thank you. Mr. Weidmann, I was curious, what is the role of the Department for Regional Development with respect to hydrogen?
The Münster government district includes the Emscher-Lippe region and the Münsterland. What are the strengths of this region with regard to hydrogen? We have large energy and chemical companies. They are already established in the region. The universities in the region represent great research and development, and they are already working on many development projects and processes concerning hydrogen. An essential factor of our economic strengths are small and medium-sized enterprises, as represented today by Lars and his company Zink. These companies in particular need affordable energy and heat supply for the future. The availability of use of hydrogen is therefore an important location factor for the future of our region. The planned pipeline GET H2 nucleus from Lingen to Gelsenkirchen is a central component of the distribution of hydrogen. We have a great will in politics, the administration, and the economy in our region to implement hydrogen processes and projects. With NAFTA, an international high-tech company, comes to Saarbeck in Münsterland, about which we are very happy. The settlement confirms the need, but also the success of cooperation in a regional and international context. Very importantly, we see ourselves as a part of hydrogen region in Northern Europe, and that's why we see great opportunities in cooperation with you, with our partners in the Netherlands.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Brouwers, being a representative for the high-tech industry for Germany, I imagine you talk a lot of companies, both sides of the border are involved in many projects. What is your goal and vision if you look at cross-border cooperation?
Well, one of my tasks is to try to build alliances cross-border. And I think I'm very happy that we are today here in this setting with representatives from public, but also from the companies, from the entrepreneurs, because all together we have to do this job. And looking at my goal is today, one of the goals is already established here, that we're here together in this setting. And I hope we already had a lot of conversations also with our cross-border friends, that we can put the words and the love we share with each other. We say, okay, the partnering, that we can put them into an execution and find the project, because the challenges are enormous, but the chances are enormous too. And my view on the cooperation side was one of the questions at the beginning. I said the most important from this cooperation is to have impact. And if there would have been one issue or one challenge where we should really have an impact, is it on energy transition? And the other thing is around the view of cooperation is that we really need each other, therefore, because Herr Baumgart already said we can't do it by our own. And people who know me, I always say I'm very in favor of partnering with Germany. The Dutch and the Germans, in my opinion, complement each other very much. We do easily jobs to each other. We're a different kind, but in a way, besides maybe playing football, we love each other. And this is growing and growing. And I say always together, we are gemeinsam Weltmeister. And that is what we need. Let's be every day in this topic, but also in the areas of health and also in the areas of smart industry. But the energy transition, let's be this Weltmeister together. And I think that's one of our challenges we face. Some time ago in January, there was a document signed. Maybe some people know, maybe some people do not know. It's this technology and innovation pact between Germany and the Netherlands, signed by Mr. Altmaier and our minister. And it's about innovation, cooperation in the fields of smart industry, mobility, health, and also in the field of energy transition. And I think this will pave the road for a lot of initiatives, but on the other hand, it will need to happen here in this region with ourselves, the companies here, to make this work.
Yes, Brouw, that's interesting. You mentioned, let's say, if you walk alone together, that's the basis for success. But what exactly, from a practical point of view, from your point of view, is needed, let's say, to make cooperation work effectively when it comes to cross-border collaboration?
The first thing which is really important is, there are several points, but the first thing is real and intrinsic commitment of parties to work together.
Parties, you mean policymakers and companies?
Policymakers, entrepreneurs, join the forces towards the EU, but it begins with the statement, we're going to do this, and we're going really to execute it in the practice. The other thing is transparency. We need, and we will get an example in a few minutes, we need to know what are our best practices, what are our expertises on both sides of the borders, because we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of companies already. Only in the Netherlands, in the east of Netherlands, we have around 200 companies who are in the chain of energy storage or hydrogen. And I always wonder how many people do know that. And on the other side, it won't be different. So this transparency and the platform which will be introduced later on, that's important. We need also this entrepreneurial mindset. We need entrepreneurs, but also the entrepreneurial mindset to be the most entrepreneurial region also on this topic. And I think it's knowing each other better and cooperation. Let's be this Weltmeister, gemeinsam.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yes. Perhaps a question to Mr. Weidmann. Would it be possible to somehow create a level playing field with the counterparts? For example, a set of common rules or standards?
We wish to stimulate tangible and good projects. Later on, Mr. Almering will present the Hydrogen X platform. We think the establishment of this platform is a convincing collaboration project that we therefore help to finance. It is important for us that companies in particular know each other so that they have the opportunity to enter into cooperation. We are the opinion knowledge of concrete projects and processes concerning hydrogen on both sides increases not only the possibility of targeted cross-border cooperation, collaboration also increases the speed of strategy implementation and knowledge transfer. These are important factors in the competition with other regions that are also working very intensively on the topic of hydrogen. We are working on the opportunities and potential that hydrogen enables for transport and mobility, for industry, for urban districts. Here we can learn from each other in a good exchange. Already in the past 1.5 years, we have invited representatives of Oost NL to our regional exchange activities, and we will continue this process in this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Baumgürtel, nog eine Frage würde ich sagen. A question to you, sorry. As we all know, collaboration works best when it is ingrained in, let's put it this way, consistent policy frameworks. What I find interesting, can entrepreneurs on both sides of the border rely on a, let's say, a mutual maneuvering space, an equal maneuvering space?
Well, in theory, yes. I would say that the policies on both sides of the border, again, I cited that for the economy, there are no borders actually. But in terms of policies, there are, of course, differences. But I think that these differences are not so problematic that collaboration or even working on each side, so to speak, of the border is getting difficult. But what we need, of course, is a framework. And I expect from the European Union to supply us with a good hydrogen framework that allows all companies, German companies, Dutch companies, all companies in Europe, small and big, to profit from the developments in this energy transition. I'm a bit more concerned about the balance between the support for small companies, medium-sized companies in the field of the energy transition. I think that the EU especially, but also in Germany, we have to maybe readdress a bit the impact of small and medium-sized companies versus the large global companies in order to get all the potential of hydrogen tapped and developed. And I think in that regard, especially in Germany, we need to readdress the policy. Maybe I like very much the investment agenda that you have for hydrogen in the North Netherlands. Investment agenda is for me already something different from the sound of it than national hydrogen strategy. I like investment agenda much more than a strategy. It's more practical. And in the end, as Hans said, we need the best practices. We need to have the exchange. I also am fully supporting any kind of tool that will allow entrepreneurs, especially of the small and medium-sized companies, to exchange and to develop together ideas, regardless of whether these ideas are born in Germany or born in the Netherlands. It doesn't matter. Jointly, we will move on. And the idea of being a Weltmeister together, I like that very much. And I think that politicians simply need to always keep in mind that they must enable it. They are enablers. They should not disturb. They should not imbalance. They should not bias. They should simply give us the framework that we need in order to implement our ideas.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgürtel. It's interesting to know about, let's say, the facilitators and your remarks regarding the small and medium-sized enterprises. Thank you.
Yes. In the meantime, thank you. We have a chat question which goes like, how open are you to radical innovations at the intersection of mobility and climate in the regio? And which barriers should a firm overcome to acquire government support for a radical innovation? Perhaps, Mr. De Brey, could you reflect on that?
Yeah, well, that's a very, very intriguing question, because radical innovation is something that does not match completely with the traditional approach from policymakers, because we focus on challenges, on public interest, and there's a tendency to prescribe then in detail what has to be done. And that does not match with an innovative perspective or entrepreneurial perspective. So it's very important for us as policymakers to focus on goals, on an agenda with goals or landmarks, whatever, milestones. It doesn't matter how you call them, but focus on what in the end you want to achieve, and not on how it has to be done. Because that is a strong limitation for radical innovation or innovation in itself. So I see it as an assignment, and I find it very interesting to hear from Lars Baumgürtel and also Mr. Brouwers, who points out from a business perspective what they need. They call it a framework or know each other, the intrinsic motivation. And I think that's something I take with me after this meeting to implement it and to focus more on goals. And hopefully we can arrange the radical innovations that was mentioned by the person who asked this question.
Okay. Thanks for answering, and to you all also, thank you for your input at this point. And good to hear that there is the political will and a fruitful infrastructure for cooperation. Thank you very much again. We go to the second part of our event, but first we're going to have a look at a couple of activities on hydrogen in the Eastern Netherlands.
Waterstof gaat een hele belangrijke rol spelen in de energietransitie. Dat hebben we nodig om straks te kunnen zorgen dat ons energiesysteem groen is, maar ook dat we te allen tijden genoeg energie hebben. En die waterstoftechnologie moet ontwikkeld worden en Nederland heeft daar een hele goede kaart. We zijn op allerlei manieren daarmee bezig, onder andere hier waar ik op bezoek ben in Arnhem. Allemaal bedrijven die zich richten op die waterstofeconomie en allemaal dingen aan het ontwikkelen zijn. Met heel veel enthousiasme. En daar zie je ook aan, en dat gaat straks ook gebeuren, dat we daar weer nieuwe banen mee creëren. Hier zijn honderden mensen bezig. Het kan inmiddels uit. Allerlei dingen zijn commercieel toepasbaar. En dit creëert weer hele nieuwe werkgelegenheid en een enorm enthousiasme. En wat ook opviel, wat de mensen hier ook zeggen, er zijn een heleboel jongeren ook geïnteresseerd om hier te komen werken. Dit is echt de werkgelegenheid waar weer een nieuwe generatie in geïnteresseerd is. Dit zijn onze banen van straks.
Welcome back at our second part of the Power to Hydrogen Cross-Border Cooperation event. With two new guests, we're going to look into tooling for cooperation. Allow me to introduce to you Mr. Tjardo Derksen, Project Manager at Kiemt, and Mr. Christophe Almering, Managing Director at regio. Welcome to you both. Mr. Derksen, if I may start with you. Kiemt has developed a hydrogen opportunity map. Can you tell us the goal of this map?
Yes, of course. As a network organization, Kiemt wants to accelerate the energy transition and the transition to a circular economy by connecting initiatives, but also creating collaboration. The hydrogen opportunity map is a really good example of that. It really gives a good insight in which hydrogen initiatives are developed in a region and also how it relates to the different opportunities. And the opportunities can be divided in logistics, public transport and industry. Nice. And the reason why we made this map is because East Netherlands is an international leader in developing, implementing, applying hydrogen technology with a big cluster of SMEs, scale-ups, startups, but also knowledge institutions. A lot of innovation is happening in this region. And therefore the goal of this map is to give insight which initiatives are happening where, and we also want to connect the supply and demand of the different initiatives. And last but not least, we also want to position East Netherlands as a hydrogen technology region with this visual map.
Okay, great, interesting. Mr. Derksen, entrepreneurs are always looking for what we call practical tools. Is the H2 opportunity map such a tool, to your opinion?
It's a really impractical tool indeed. I will show it with an animation.
Lovely.
As I said before, this opportunity map is focusing on East Netherlands, which are the province of Gelderland and Overijssel, but there are also some German initiatives as well. If you open the agenda, you will see the opportunities, but also the different categories of the initiatives, like production, storage, mobility. And you can see the water drop icons, which are the initiatives. For example, this Hydrogen Hub Twente, which is a physical place where entrepreneurs, knowledge institutions, and government work together on testing and applying technology.
Interesting.
So, yeah. If you want to know more about one of the initiatives, you just can get in touch.
We could look at the website, I guess.
Yes, indeed,
also,
yeah.
Yeah, on the Future of Us website. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, well, sounds to me a very, very interesting tool. But when do you consider it a success?
I consider it as a success when we can prevent that the same initiatives are happening next to each other, and also if we can speed up the realization of different initiatives. Therefore, we need more initiatives on this website, or on the map.
Yeah.
So if you're cooperating with an initiative, please let me know, and I will put it on the map. But on the other side, we also want to extend with the German initiatives. There are a few already on the map, but we want to extend it so the cross-border cooperation can be started.
Okay, great.
All right, nice. And Mr. Almering, you are also the architect, you could say, of a cross-border platform, hydrogenx.nl. I believe also this map is already integrated in that platform. Could you tell us more about the idea behind this platform and what its goal is? We have no sound here.
We have no sound, please.
Oh, Mr. Almering, you are on mute.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Anfängerfehler. First of all, let me say thank you and good morning to all. Thank you that we have the opportunity to come together in this way on this very important issue, thanks to Oost NL and all the other partners. Well, in the last few months, we as Euregio have set up together with the IHK North Westphalia and the Bezirksregierung of Münster, the first cross-border energy platform. It's called hydrogenx.online, not NL, hydrogenx.online. For this purpose, we founded a working group in October last year, which has developed this platform, and this working group emerged from a young regional and cross-border network in which, on the Dutch side, Oost NL is actively involved. The hydrogen platform went online last Monday. It is now important that the startup phase goes well so that the platform becomes known and that as many actors as possible from the Netherlands and Germany register and use the platform. Well, the hydrogen platform has two main goals. First of all, actors in the field of hydrogen in Germany and the Netherlands can register their initiatives and activities, as well as their requirements, and thus network across borders. And the actors are customers, research institutions, federal, state and local governments. The Kreise of Münster, for example, just launched feasibility studies. We have hydrogen producers, companies from the mechanical engineering sector, transport companies, interest groups, etc. Well, and second, the bilingual platform informs about current hydrogen activities, initiatives, about best practices, and of course about funding programs. And well, in this way, the platform contributes to the borderless use of environmentally friendly energies. This is in the line with our own strategic goals. And the energy transition plays an important role, of course, in our new strategy, Euregio 2030, Regio 2030. The hydrogen platforms fits into this new strategy because Euregio is striving for a cross-border energy concept with an increased German-Dutch exchange of information and experience. And yes, we are also consciously following the line of the European Union keyword Green Deal in this way. Let me say that the first target area is the Euregio region, the Emscher-Lippe region and the Emsland. It's a little bit greater than only the Euregio. And over time, this area could be expanded. Only time will tell. The Euregio region itself already offers excellent potential in terms of hydrogen production. We have heard a lot of examples still just today. There are many parties involved in the production and application of hydrogen. And of course, there are many customers. That's very important. The hydrogen platform that contributes to networking and informs stakeholders about hydrogen could give a boost to hydrogen development in the Euregio and even beyond the region. Yes, well, so far, at this point.
So what I understand, and I fully agree with you, Ms. Almering, that this could be of extreme benefit to all the entrepreneurs who are currently, let's say, active in the world of hydrogen. Do you agree with me?
Well, of course, this benefit, we hope that this benefit will come. The platform is very new, it started last Monday, but that's exactly the benefit we hope to achieve.
Okay, thank you so much.
We have an interesting chat question, Elmering. It's a bit of a long one, so hold on tight. Good morning. Talking about politics is interesting, but talking about the framework for hydrogen-based economy could be more interesting for entrepreneurs. For instance, the development of a hydrogen trade platform could be the place to sell and buy hydrogen. This could be the place for demand-driven hydrogen opportunities instead of technical driven development. Is that something that maybe in the future, if you look at your corporation platform, you would be going to facilitate?
Yes, I didn't understand all of the question, but I will try it. Well, we as the Regis Health ourselves see as an information platform. That's the first thing and the first task we have to fulfill that promotes the establishment of contact and maintains the bilingual platform. That's our role. Of course, we do not have a technical knowledge, but of course we have a political function. Other actors are taking care of that part. We assume that these actors will come together on the platform, and that can happen in very different ways, of course.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, then we come to the end of this tooling part. We have the political will, and we also have tooling to start cooperation together. So we move on to the last part, but first we're going to have a small look into the circle of Steinfurt, where hydrogen is going to be the future fuel for the energy system of 2050.
Heimatenergie durch das Wasserstoffkompetenzzentrum. Grün, wertvoll, aus dem Kreis Steinfurt für NRW. Der Kreis Steinfurt hat sich durch erfolgreiche Klimaschutzprojekte über Jahrzehnte sein überregionales Ansehen als Energieland 2050 erarbeitet. Hier begreifen die Menschen, dass sie mit Energie aus Wind und Sonne viel Mehrwert schaffen können. Und das am besten gemeinsam. Mit Nachbarn und Unternehmern vor Ort. Zum Beispiel in fast 130 Bürgerwindanlagen. Die drehen und drehen sich, auch weit mehr als 20 Jahre, und liefern grünen Strom zum günstigen Preis. Schon länger befassen sich die Betreiber mit Konzepten, aus diesem Strom nach Wegfall der Einspeisevergütung grünen Wasserstoff herzustellen. Dieser wäre wiederum optimal für ländliche Mobilität einsetzbar. Der Mehrwert fürs Klima ist klar. Der Mehrwert für die Wirtschaft lässt sich auch berechnen. Für 700 Millionen Euro tankt die Region Benzin und Diesel. Jedes Jahr. Dieses Geld könnte statt im Ausland auch einfach im Kreis Steinfurt Werte schaffen. So ist unser Konzept der Heimatenergie entstanden. Nucleus wird unser neu zu gründendes Wasserstoffkompetenzzentrum sein, welches wir auch mit dem Preisgeld aufbauen wollen. Heimat für Expertise, Netzwerke und Möglichmacher. Dort drehen wir die 2 großen Stellschrauben im ländlichen Wasserstoffmarkt. Erste Stellschraube: Mit den Betreibern der großen Wind- und Solaranlagen entwickeln wir einen gemeinsamen Zukunftskurs rund um den Ausbau der Wasserstofftechnologien. Ebenso sprechen wir die Unternehmen und Betreiber großer Nutzfahrzeugflotten von Bussen und Lkw bis hin zu Landmaschinen an und binden sie ein. 4 fachliche Kompetenzteams sind als Experten in der Region unterwegs, beraten potenzielle Anwender und bauen bestehende Netzwerke aus. Erste Erfolge planen wir mit Wasserstoffbussen und Zügen im Regionalverkehr. Auch Bürgerbusse steigen um. Sie sorgen für die öffentliche positive Wahrnehmung ausgereifter Technik. Der Einsatz wasserstoffbetriebener Müllfahrzeuge belegt im Straßenbild die Marktreife und Verlässlichkeit der Großfahrzeuge, auch für Spediteure. Große und kleinere Speditionen werden in gezielter Ansprache über aktuelle Modelle und Fördermittel informiert. Der Austausch mit bereits erfahrenen Anwendern, Testfahrten, Einkaufgemeinschaften oder gemeinsame Betriebstankstellen bahnen dabei den Weg zum Umstieg. Wenn immer mehr wasserstoffbetriebene Busse, Lkw und Müllfahrzeuge unterwegs sind, werden auch Wasserstoff-Pkw als Dienst- und Flottenfahrzeuge interessant für regionale Unternehmen. Perspektivisch gilt dies auch für die landwirtschaftlichen Fahrzeuge im Kreis Steinfurt. Zweite Stellschraube. Die Infrastruktur aus Elektrolyseuren und Wasserstofftankstellen wird ausgebaut. Hierzu stimmen sich die Windkraft- und Solarbetreiber, Busbetriebshöfe, Spediteure, Tankstellen, Stadtwerke und die lokalen Banken ab. Die Anbindung an das überregionale Gasnetz wird aktiv begleitet. Ebenso die Belieferung weiterer Abnehmer in benachbarten Großstädten oder Industriestandorten. Unser Konzept der Heimatenergie überzeugt als Win-Win-Modell, das eine hohe Wertschöpfung für die regionale Wirtschaft und den Klimaschutz garantiert. Und Kompetenz aufbaut. Für jede andere interessierte ländliche Region in NRW. Grün, wertvoll, 100% übertragbar. Für NRW.
Welcome back at the final part of the Power of Hydrogen Cross-Border Cooperation event with two entrepreneurs at the table. Mr. Joost Verheijen, Director of Business Development at UMS, short for Urban Mobility Systems, and Mr. Philip Heinbach, Head of Energy Policy and Governmental Affairs at Enapter. Welcome to you both. Mr. Verheijen, if I may start with you, can you tell us about the company UMS, what your activities are, and reflect on the goal of, the ambitions on hydrogen?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Urban Mobility Systems is specialized in creating zero emission solutions, mainly for heavy industry like excavators, trucks and buses. And our hydrogen strategy is an option for us next to battery electric. So we interpret the energy transition as a problem or challenge with more than one option.
Okay, a various approach. Okay, Mr. Heinbach, actually also the same question to you. Can you give a short explanation about Enapter and your ambitions with regard to hydrogen?
Yes, absolutely. So Enapter is a manufacturer of electrolyzers. This is the equipment you need to produce hydrogen, for example, from renewable electricity. And the reason why we engage in hydrogen is very much, I say, ideological driven. We want to combat climate change, and if you understand that 70% of our global energy consumption is in the form of fossil fuels, this means it's not electricity, but rather fossil fuels and fossil gases. You understand that you need a clean molecule to decarbonize these industry sectors, and there green hydrogen is the solution.
Thank you so much. Well, I have a question to the both of you, Mr. Verheijen and Mr. Heinbach. Cross-border cooperation, because we're talking about cross-border cooperation, comprises many aspects. To mention co-developments, co-manufacturing, procurement. Please take us in the loop about your motives for cross-border cooperation.
If I may start, yeah, thank you. Well, first off, the energy transition is a big challenge, so it's bigger than one company or one country. So sure. From that perspective, cooperation is our primary goal. Next to that, exchange of knowledge, software, and of course the commercial driven factor is there as well. So that's our point of view.
Could you say you can't survive without cooperation?
Well, we could survive, but not as efficient as with cooperation, because, like I said, it's a global problem. So it would be a bit arrogant to say we could solve it all on our own.
Mr. Heinbach, could you reflect on this?
Yeah, 100% agree. So the big goal of Enapter is to make green hydrogen cheap and competitive to fossil fuels. So every individual or every company in the world that is aligned with that mission to bring down the costs of green hydrogen is invited to reach out to us and to cooperate with us. And it's also important to understand in this regard that Enapter is a pure technology provider. This means every product we produce, every electrolyzer needs additional value added through integration, through system implementation, and this means we need a very strong partner network at Enapter.
Okay. When we talk about cross-border cooperation, could you explain what you would like to achieve and what conditions should be met in order to be satisfied for you as a company?
For me personally, I think it would be foremost important to set a common goal and actually agree on a common goal. From there, we should take it any further. So, yeah, one part would be exchange of technology. The other part is to actually be able to find each other. So if you ask me from my perspective, let's start with the common goal and finding each other, and let's see how we can make each other stronger. So that's my more simple point of view, so to say. Yeah.
Clear answer. Mr. Heinbach?
Yeah, absolutely the same. So this depends very much on the specific question you are looking at. So in order to make our product cheaper, to deliver more cost competitive hydrogen, we have a lot of different, let's say, baskets where we need to deliver on improvements, and a partner is welcome for every of these baskets if he can add to achieve the aim.
Regardless where this partner is, either side on the border.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And how do you look at, because we're talking about cross-border cooperation, how do you look at the perhaps social, cultural differences between the two countries? Is that a challenge in that sense?
Yeah, for Enapter, we don't see borders, we see opportunities. Right from the start, we are a truly international company. So from the first second of incorporating Enapter, we were present in 4 different countries, in Italy, in Germany, in Russia, and in Thailand. So this is really, it's not a challenge, but an opportunity for us.
And how is that for UMS?
Yeah, we agree.
How do you look at it?
Like I said, the common goal will actually be able for us to achieve any and all obstacles we will encounter on our way. Besides, I think that having a multicultural collaboration is more of an enrichment than an obstacle from our point of view. So, yeah, we would like to collaborate.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great. Mr. Heinbach, I have a few questions to you. We understand that Enapter is investing heavily in a new production facility just across our borders. Which can be regarded, to our opinion, as an unprecedented, let's say, achievement. So congratulations with this. Why exactly did you settle down in Steinfurt? There is definitely more behind the story than just enough, let's say, production space. There's one question. And have local authorities been supportive in selecting this place of business for you? And the third question, 3 questions, did the proximity of some cities in the eastern part of the Netherlands play a part of your contribution in this consideration?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I'm very happy to share some insights here. So in our view, the Kreis Steinfurt simply offered the best conditions to realize our vision. And we have scrutinized more than 130 different destinies and places alone in Germany. And among the most compelling reasons for this region in Steinfurt were especially 5 reasons, I say. And the first one is the availability of tremendous amounts of green energy. And for us, this 100% renewable energy is key to fuel our production with this energy, because we believe the product that we produce is one that is a climate beneficial product, and its impact is even better the less carbon we use to produce that product. And the proximity of this bioenergy park close to our new production facility, that was really a key driver that it has so much capacity. And then what we find very inspiring was this demonstrated approach of Saarbeck to design climate and energy policy as a civil movement. So this is very much in line with the vision that Enapta has of a just and fair energy system of the future that is decentralized and that includes every person that wants to make a contribution. And then what we have seen just in the video of this region is that they have very ambitious plans to actually become a model region for hydrogen. And I don't mean simply the Kreis Steinfurt alone, also what we have seen about Eastern Netherlands and simply this geographic location. We really believe that there is something special that we can build up there. And finally, as you asked for support of the local authorities, yes, also there we had the impression that we can deliver our new factory with speed. And speed, that is one of the most important currencies for Enapta, because climate change will not wait, and this means we must act with urgency and we need to deliver the high capacities as fast as possible. And the commitments by the local authorities there have been very high, and this really, together with the good access to skilled workers, we will create 300 new jobs in this factory. This really made a package where we said, okay, this is simply the best place where we can go to.
Well, interesting answer. So it's not purely, let's say, financial driven that you choose Steinfurt. There are many other reasons for your consideration to put your investment down in Steinfurt.
Absolutely, absolutely true. Many more facets. Of course, the financial part and the economic side must be good as well, but it has been good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answer.
And I was just curious, Mr. Heimbach, is in that sense the Steinfurt Kreis the most pioneering region in Germany with respect to hydrogen?
Well, at least it's one that is very ambitious, and you have to see where it's located in North Rhine-Westphalia. In the tradition, this always has been an energy state, right? And it will suffer from climate change in the sense that a lot of jobs will be shifted away from this old energy world, and that's why the ambitions are high to create a future industry and to settle the new energy world. And we want to play a part in this. But there are many locations in Germany where the conditions are excellent and where the ambitions are high, but Kreis Steinfurt is certainly one of them.
Okay. We have a chat question, maybe perhaps for you, Mr. Heimbach. What is the application range of the electrolyzers manufactured by Enapta, and is there a focus on a specific application?
Yeah. So as a manufacturer of this technology, we don't have a specific industry use case in mind. We want to supply them all. But what we have is a very special approach to the hydrogen market. And this is first because of our technology. AEM is really a unique technology that has several advantages over the traditional methods of PEM or alkaline electrolyzers in our view. And secondly, we think hydrogen as a product. We don't want to build large, complex engineering projects. We want to make hydrogen simple, and that you order this like you would order a laptop. That means we have a modular product that you then stack up until you reach the capacity you need. This means we can cater very large, very small capacities to very large quantities.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that makes us coming to the end of today's event. I want to thank you very much for your input. We've seen the political will, we've seen tooling, and we've seen two very enthusiastic, logically driven entrepreneurs. So I'd almost say, let's start cooperating. Wilco, perhaps some famous last words from you, or a reflection on the takeaway of today's
yeah, well, not famous session. Last words, but maybe a reflection. What I learned today, at least, let's say from the part of the policymakers, I noticed two words: set objectives, and secondly, facilitate. So I urge them, please do so for our entrepreneurs. And secondly, for the entrepreneurs themselves, interact, as you also already mentioned. Yep. And you, so let's do so. That's what I learned today. Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Wilco, you also thanks a lot for co-hosting this session, and of course, viewers at home or at the office. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or you want to look up at the tooling or the movies, you can do so on our website, futureofus.nl. We have a next event at the 8th of October, of which part of we will organize a matchmaking session cross-border with Go for export. So we hope to see you then perhaps in the flesh so we can shake hands. Fingers crossed. For now, have a nice day, stay healthy, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.